How can we hope to kick a goal into the net if we don't know where the net is? Is that self-obvious or what? Of course it is. But how many of us really don't know what our goal is? We haven't got the big picture of our mission, vision, purpose, where we're going. First thing I would ask you to do in your next team meeting is get together and decide exactly what your goal is. Be very, very specific about this. Every word matters. Every word. Every thought that you put into this will pay off. Because without your goal, we can kick a ball, it can go anywhere. I know you've heard this. But what John and I are working to do is bring the weekend into action steps that will really pay off very practically with you over the next few weeks and months. So how many of you got a Bambi ready to pick up and take with you? Yeah? How many of you are ready to foil the cheetah? Go out and get what it is that you want. Only you can decide if you're going to pick up Bambi and rescue him and run off, or you're not. And your actions in the next few months are going to be so important with putting these things into action that you've heard all this weekend. I suggest that you, now who's heard about mind mapping? Some of you. I won't go into it. There are wonderful websites with mind mapping of goals. The mind mapping brings a large goal down into the smallest possible detail so that you can really take small action steps, what I call the phone call on Monday. You'll know the pathways to achieving this goal so nothing becomes overwhelming. Okay, well, we have to avoid at all costs, of course, is overwhelm. A really handy tool is to write a picture of the future that you want. Write a picture of the goal. Make it very clear in terms of you smell it, you see it, you touch it, you taste it, the whole lot of your senses involved with this picture of your ideal life or your big dream or your big goal. I really recommend that you all do this and read it at least once a day. At least. Because what we imagine, we can bring in and produce. Once we imagine it, it is energetically there. And then our action steps bring it in to us. Could we take this down to each patient? You have a goal for each patient. What is it that you want with each patient? I'm just here really to ask you some questions so that you can apply what you've learned at the weekend. We're not going to give you anything new. This has to be incredibly practical at this point. With each client, what do you want? See, it's a thinking process we must go through. Otherwise, we blindly go through life and end up somewhere. It's the same with each client. We'll blindly end up with, yes, a lovely adjustment, but perhaps we really want to be wellness people and symptoms keep coming in. Have to have a very clear outcome in mind. Well, I have a word called humanness, mainly because I'm so very human. Humanness pops up in all sorts of forms. Beliefs I don't believe that I can achieve. I'm never good enough. I'm going to judge myself. I should have been a boy. I'm a girl. It's just all the human stuff that comes up and sabotages what it is that we want. So I urge you to find some really good people who can help you make sure that you're not sabotaging what you want. Once you've found the goal, how are you going to get there? I love this principle. Wilfredo Pareto was the Dean of Political Sciences at Lausanne in Switzerland, and he was huge on statistics. He came up with the 80-20 rule. 80%, and he worked with the finances, so he started with that. 80% of people in the, 20% of people in the world own 80% of the money, the wealth in the world. 20% of seed pods that are planted produce 80% of the peas. It can be applied to everything. I apply it in practice. 20% of what we do that's fabulous in practice produces 80% of the fabulous results. 20% of what we don't do very well will produce 80% of results we don't want. So which 20% of sources in your practice are causing you 80% of your unhappiness and your problems? How's your flow? How are your systems? How's the front desk? How's your technique? Questions to be asking. So which 20% in your practice is producing 80% of the unhappiness and problems? I'll give you an example. We had a dear man who looked after John and I when we were in our student clinic. We were very fortunate to have him, Ray Sherman. He's in Sydney, magical fellow. And he said, he said 5% of people will give you 95% of your problems. Because Pareto found it's not only 80-20, it can go up to 99% and 1%. 1% of people in the practice can give us 99% of the problems. 5% of people in the practice can give us 95% of our referrals. With me? It just adds up to the 100% all the time. So I ask you to take this as a question. Write it down if necessary. But then the converse is, which 20% of sources in your practice are giving you huge benefits in terms of